Hello, hey, what's going on, guys? I'm here recording. This is another video. This one's actually quite old. This is probably maybe 2 years old, but nonetheless, it's footage that I had kind of left over. So let's talk about Japanese cruisers or metric bikes, cruisers. They're cheaper than Harley Davidsons. That's for sure. But if you want to customize them, there's not a lot of parts out there for them. I've tried buying this parts for this one, and I found myself making parts for this bike that I'm riding here. This bike here is now different from the way I have it now. I have bars that I had to customize myself, and this video I had a bobber seat, a bobbed out seat. So it was difficult customizing these parts because I mean I don't have a shop. I don't have the tools to do these type of fabrications, and it's a lot easier now that I have a Sportster. I still have this one, but I also have another motorcycle. It's a Harley Davidson Sportster. It's the difference between that and this is night and day. There's so many parts. There's thousands and thousands of parts for the Harley Davidson that you could purchase aftermarket and or straight from Harley Davidson. For these type of bikes, it's difficult to find. A lot of the shadows, they're slightly different. This one's an 1100. It's different from the 750. Finding parts for this motorcycle was a lot more difficult. And the Sportsters, you just kind of look them up. They're actually the same frame, almost the same frame, and just about they're identical from year to year. And the Harley Sportster has been around for what, maybe 20 years, 15 years. There's so many parts for those bikes, and you could get parts that'll fit all the way down to the 90s up to the 2000s. Those parts are going to fit. So my recommendation is, if you want a Harley Davidson, get a Harley Davidson. If you want a cruiser that you want to customize, if you have the tools, if you have the shop, get yourself a Japanese cruiser, a metric bike. Go ahead. You'll be able to bob it out. You just need tools, or if you know somebody that has the tools, or you have a friend that has the knowledge and the how to, get them to do it, or get them to help you do it. But for me, honestly, if you don't mind just paying the extra money, a couple extra dollars, the motorcycles are going to look a whole lot cleaner too, with the Harley Davidson. If that's pretty much down to it. I have the Harley Davidson. Parts are available. It's endless. You could turn the Sportster into a roadster. You could turn it into an off-road bike. You could turn it into a club style. I've even seen a few of them that look like sport glides. It's actually funny. And there's a lot of shadows that are bobbed out. They look good. They look nice. These motorcycles are reliable. They have they have twin spark plugs. They have they have a lot of the good things about a Shadow is they're reliable. The engines are modern. They don't shake a lot, and they're easy to work on, as in maintenance wise. This one right here has a gear shaft, so there's no maintenance when it comes to the chain like on a lot of other motorcycles. This one just has a gear oil that I have to put in every maybe 5 years or every 20,000 miles or something like that. I got this motorcycle used for maybe a little bit over $3,000. If you're this is an 1100, it's a bigger bike. It's a comfortable motorcycle. It's probably kind of what you would kind of expect on maybe a Softail. It's easy to ride. It's heavy, that's for sure. It's a lot heavier than than the Sportster. But when it comes to customization, this is pretty much what I did to it. You see the deflector and the windshield. I painted them black so it would look like the Heritage, the Harley Davidson Heritage, but they still stand out. Yeah, let's see. You might even be able to see the bobber seat that I have on it. And let's see. See, there it is. I took off the fender. This one I didn't have to cut off anything when it came to the rear fender struts. I didn't have to cut that off at all. It was a lot easier. This one comes short when it comes to those struts. And that's pretty much it. If you have the money and you don't want to be hassling with buying parts from Home Depot, which is what I had to do to get the seat installed without welding the bobber seat placements. That's what I did. I got a piece of metal, and I bent it, formed it, made a seat. If I could find the images, I'll add them onto this video if I can find the images. But it was fun. It was good. But I just thought the motorcycle looked funny with the windshield in the front, and it not having a rear fender. It just didn't feel the same, and it looked top heavy too. The front heavy, it just looked heavy in the front. So the way I ride this now is I have the saddlebags, I reinstalled the rear fender, and I put Z-bars in the front. So what I would recommend, if you have the money and you don't want to be dealing with not finding parts for the motorcycle, get yourself a Harley Davidson. And if you could afford a bigger bike, like a Dyna or a Softail, save up, just like I mentioned in my other video. If you have the money, save up. Don't spend it. I know this is where I made the mistake. I bought this one thinking I was going to do all these crazy things to it and I was going to customize it, but later on I started realizing, you know what, I spent quite a bit of money just making this into what kind of like a Harley Davidson. I put exhaust. That cost me about $400-$500. The bars cost me about $120 plus some time, my labor, and what I did to the windshield. All these parts cost money, and honestly, I'm still not quite happy with it. I still went out and I got that Sportster, and now I'm in a spot where if I do sell this Honda Shadow, I'm not gonna get what I put into it with all the parts that I already purchased. So in the end of the day, it would have saved me a lot more money if I would have just bought the what I really want is a Street Bob. If I would have bought the Street Bob and then started putting in that money, the parts, I honestly believe I would have been happier with the motorcycle than with what I have now. Just doing all these little tweaks to get it to sound like a Harley and look like a Harley. I should have just saved that money and just bought a Street Bob or Harley Davidson. But I mean, a lot of people that are just getting into it, they see a motorcycle for the first time and they just fall in love with it, and that's kind of what happened with me. I started riding maybe 3 years ago. This was actually my first bike, and when I first saw this bike, I just had to have it, and it was on sale, so it was cheaper than a Harley Davidson Street Bob. Street Bob. Now you're looking at Street Bob. I was looking at Street Bob. We were probably talking about $12,000, and that was way out of my price range. And I didn't want to refinance it for the reason of the insurance. What I pay now for the insurance a year is $120 a year for this motorcycle. No, honestly, I pay $120 for both motorcycles, for the Sportster and for this Honda Shadow. That's what I pay a year. If I would have bought it brand new at the dealership or purchased one, financing one, I would have been looking at the payments plus the $120 a month, what I pay for the year now, I would have been paying that monthly, and that's over $1,000 a year. So that's 10 times more than what I'm paying now. And this is something that I was just getting into. I wasn't gonna. What happens? I honestly, I believe a lot of people get into motorcycles. They, instead of buying a used one, they buy a brand new one, or maybe they're scared to drive to ride it, and that's kind of what you end up finding. You find these street bobs, these Harley Davidsons with almost no miles, and they're 5-6 years old, and a lot of the times you get those good deals. So if I would have waited, saved up my money, I probably would have I would have been able to afford my street bob, and then would have customized it. And because of there's so many aftermarket parts for those motorcycles, you would have, or I would have been able to find a lot of the parts, and I would have been able to just do all these bolt-on parts, and I wouldn't have been, trying to figure it out, looking at the motorcycle. I mean, it's a learning process. From what I mean, I'm quite handy, and I do have a lot of the tools that I've customized this motorcycle now. But if I was just a regular guy, someone that doesn't have tools or any of this, then there's no way you would have been able to customize this bike to where you would probably have wanted it, especially without having the tools or having the means on how to do it. So that's my 2 cents. Just save your money, get yourself that bike that you really want. If you're just starting riding a bike, like I mentioned before, if you're in your 30s and you're more responsible, get the bike you want and enjoy it. For people, my cousins, they want to get into motorcycles, and I see them driving their trucks. They have trucks, and I see them driving their vehicles, and I'm just kind of like, there's no way you could get yourself a motorcycle. You got to give yourself a couple of years, or like a lot of other people have mentioned, take it to the track, get that adrenaline and get that itch, scratched, and get it out of the way. That way you could ride safe, ride responsible. So that's it. That's my thoughts on Japanese cruisers or metric bikes. And there's only a couple minutes left in the video. If you guys want to keep on watching, keep on watching. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video, guys, and I hope to speak to you guys soon. Alright, later.